Welcome to Whiskey One, the channel for the novice, the curious, and the connoisseur. I'm Whiskey One, and I got John and Nick in the house, featured guests of the Whiskey One fam, and we're going to be reviewing some Blood Oaths, so stick around. Whiskey fam, sit down and grab a dram, listen to the soothing sounds of your boy Whiskey One, John and Nick, and thank you guys for coming over again and reviewing these.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Yeah, absolutely. So one quick shout out I want to throw out there. Daniel Warren was nice enough to lend us the Blood Oath Pact No. 5, and that one's finished in rum casks. This one is number 6, which is finished in a Cognac cask. Number 7 is going to be a Sauternes wine cask finish. And then last but certainly not least is number 8, finished in a Calvados, which is apple brandy cask. And I'm super excited. I don't know about you guys.
Oh yeah, very excited.
I'm really happy to get all 4 of them by each other and be able to compare them. These are not too easy to find, so having all 4 of them is a treat.
And thank you for bringing 6, 7, and 8, by the way. So these are Nick's here on your right, my left, and then that one's Daniel's. And so when I told Daniel that we were going to do some Blood Oaths, he's like, dude, try the number 5. Let me know what you think. I was like, heck yeah. So occasionally I'm going to look at my phone on the details because every one of these are a blend bourbon. So, and they're a blend of 3 different bourbons. Some old, some a little younger, but I'll just kind of occasionally look down just to make sure I got the numbers right. But we're going to go ahead and get started with these, and let's dive into number 5. Number 5. Cheers.
Cheers. Yeah.
So I figure we'll nose and taste each one separately, and we'll cleanse the palate along the way. If you guys have tried Blood Oath, I would certainly love to hear your thoughts on it. If you feel like it's worth it, a little overpriced, or if it shouldn't be as rare. I don't know. I'd love to hear your thoughts on it.
This 5 is the only one I haven't tasted. I opened those to give them a little air and had a little sip of them. It was neck pour, so these ones we actually let rest a lot longer to be able to let them open up and hopefully get a better feel of the profile.
Dude, this is really good on the nose. So real quick, this is a blend of a 13-year bourbon, a 11-year bourbon, wheated bourbon, and an 8-year bourbon that's been finished in the Caribbean rum. And one thing that you should know right off the bat, again, each bottle is a blend of 3 different bourbons, right? And it's usually the 3rd bourbon that's introduced. That's the one that's been finished or had that secondary aging in something.
Usually the youngest, the most youthful bourbon in the blend.
Yeah.
I'm getting a lot of like honey and caramel and like cereal notes also.
Honey and strawberries.
It's sweet.
Cereal with the dried strawberries in there would probably pair well with this.
Yeah, I haven't had dried strawberries in a minute. But
Freeze-dried strawberries.
I can see that. I can see that. And it does have that Caribbean rum feel to it. And if you've ever had it, it's sort of this mix of different spices. Different than maybe like baking spices, but certainly like your spiced rum comes to mind.
A lot of like the cinnamon and anise.
Blackstrap molasses kind of jumps out. When I taste wheated bourbon, I almost always get like a citrusy orange peel flavor to it. Like it's just kind of in the background, tucked away. It doesn't come out up front, but it's usually just lingering in the back. You guys
Get a little bit of like, some zest, some citrus zest.
Man, all right, well, let's dive in on the taste.
That's it.
Here we go.
Sounds good.
Wow, spicy. That is spicy. It's a little peppery. I get a little pepper on there.
Drink's a little stronger than the proof.
It does feel a little hot. You could feel it going down and on the palate.
I was expecting it to be very, very mild because of the proof, but it drinks pretty nice.
It feels
sweet
dark
and spicy.
It feels dark. Like there's some cocoa, maybe some dusty cocoa powder going on.
Oh yeah, a lot of the, definitely getting the barrel influence, a lot of the dark notes.
So Ned pointed something out. The alcohol proof is usually exactly the same across all the different bottlings. So talk about that real quick. And then we have a hypothesis that my man John has on it.
Every one of the bottles is at 49.3 proof or percent, 98.6. 98.6.
Yep.
John, we were talking about why that could be. John mentioned
What's our blood temperature? And I'm like, hey, blood oath, so
Yeah.
could be relation. I don't know if there's a story behind it. I'm sure some of you out there might know. If you know there's a story behind it, let us know. Educate us so we don't sound so dumb and just guess at things.
it's actually been every single release, 1 to 9, I believe now, and all of them were at the same proof.
So far, what are your guys' thoughts on number 5?
I mean, I've never had any blood oaths before, and so this is a very special treat for me. I really like this one so far. They're very good. It's really tasty. It's got a lot of different flavors to it. It's complex. Great nose on it.
Yeah.
And sure, it's right under 100 proof, but it kicks plenty. If you love high proof bourbon, you're not going to be disappointed with these.
No, not at all. What about you?
And I really enjoy them. It has a nice blend of aged and a little bit younger product in there that they use for the blend. One of the cool things that's a little bit different is that they only finish one of the 3 and then blend them, as opposed to doing the full blend and then finishing that in a secondary cask. So that's a little bit different way of doing things.
Keeps the finish very mild. It doesn't taste like a finished bourbon.
Yeah.
The finish in there is like just a nice little aftertaste.
And this one is really nice. It's got some spice to it, some sweetness. You could get the rum cask, but not overbearing. It's still mostly bourbon flavors.
And it does have a sticky sweetness for me anyway. On the palate, it's a little different than the nose. A little peppery on the palate initially, but then it goes right into this warming like spices, and I think that's where the rum shines more, is on the finish. You're like, yeah, all right, that kind of sticks to the palate.
Yeah.
So let's jump into number 6. It's the Cognac finished bourbon. And for this one, I'm going to look it up. But I'm wondering, have you guys tried number 6 before at all?
Yes, I've actually, with me and some friends, have finished, I think, 1.5 bottles of the 6 previous.
Dang.
So I have some experience with that one. The other ones I've had like a small taste, and the 5, this was the first time I've ever tasted it.
Wow.
This
Okay.
6
Very
smells like something special.
Yeah.
No,
And it's different from number 5. Like right off the bat. Right off the bat.
I'm kind of surprised how different it is. I was expecting them to be similar. This is very different than 5.
And it looks like you probably had like at least a couple ounces out of that one.
I might have, I'm not sure.
A late night Saturday all by yourself. So this is a blend, again a blend, a 14-year and then an 8-year, actually an 8-year and a 7-year bourbon. So these 14, 8, and 7. And then of course this is aged in a cognac cask. This one's got my attention.
Really deep inside it, I got like a red steak.
Okay.
Really deep, like meaty red steak note.
But you had to get deep inside it.
Yes, I got to get deep inside it.
You could smell more char. It's sweet, but not as sugary sweet. It's more of a deep, maybe a dark fruit sweetness to it.
Fruity, for sure. Definitely, that's the thing that separates it from the number 5. 5 is all about molasses and sweetness, sugary, caramel, whatever you want to call it.
More
and
cereal,
oaky and peppery.
more cereal. This one's a lot more fruity.
Yeah, this one's fruit forward. And it feels somewhat similar. So it makes me wonder if they're at least trying to use similar bourbons in here, maybe some Lux across these different releases. So I'm getting like ripe peaches, apricots, some orchard fruits, more, it's again kind of some citrus,
Yeah, a lot of
almost like
stone fruit.
orange marmalade, some stone fruits.
Yeah, I'm getting a lot of the stone fruits. It's more earthy fruits than super bright.
This one feels a little earthy too, like dark, earthy, dusty.
Almost a chocolatey, like
Yeah.
deeper. a lot deeper flavors and or aromas, I guess.
Leather
For now.
Leather, tobacco.
Like a fresh leather.
Yeah. All right, let's dive in.
Wow.
Less peppery, more warming though.
Yeah. And it's interesting.
A lot of
Usually, I don't get a lot of flavor in the very front. This hit me with flavor like right away in the front, like just sweet hot caramel, like just, and it's still lasting. It's like a finishing. Wow.
Like caramel peaches or something, but it hits right at the front of the palate right when you get into it.
Did you take a second sip yet?
Not yet.
I dove right into the second sip because that first one just took my breath away. So the second sip, as soon as John started talking about like the flavors kind of getting around the palate, that's when I was like, it hit me. This thing dances on the palate. Like it feels sprightly, fruity, kind of goes here and there. It's not peppery like the first one, but it feels almost like a high rye bourbon. There's a good amount of like spring seasonings, right?
Yeah. Yeah, if there's not a lot of rye in this one, I'd be very surprised. It's got to be like a high rye bourbon because it's got a lot of that fresh, springy, middle of the palate sharpness. Very good. It's very different. The palate is very different than the nose.
Yeah.
You know, the nose has you leaning one direction. The palate then kind of yanks you in another one. They're both great. You know.
Yeah.
It's an interesting, very fun experience.
The cognac flavors come through on this nice. I've had cognac finished bourbons that it overpowers and makes it more hot and kind of astringent. This keeps it balanced but brings in those fruity flavors from the cognac. That
I really think Blood Oath is on to something here with the blending of one finished into the other straight bourbons, because this is it is great the way these blend and mix together. They do not taste like finished bourbons. They just taste like amazing straight bourbon, but it's a blend and it's delicious. I love these.
What I particularly like about it is just how different it is from 5. Because if I would have gotten these myself, that's the first thing I'm looking for is what's so different about getting this bottle? Should I get it?
Why? What's the chase for? Is there a reason for the chase?
Yeah. Is it worth the chase, right?
Yes.
All right, so we had a chance to cleanse the palate before we dove into number 7. And number 7 is a finished Sauternes cask. And the way they did it was they blended a 14 and 2 different 8-year high rye bourbons. Have you guys ever had something finished in Sauternes cask? I believe you guys have, haven't you?
I think so. Yes.
That Laws?
Yeah, that's right.
Oh yeah, that one for sure.
Yep.
That one was nice.
What'd you think, man?
This one is weird. It's really light on the nose. I almost get cotton candy.
Dude,
Yep.
bingo. Cotton candy.
Cotton candy soaked in alcohol, but
You guys ever get a little cotton candy on your bourbons?
I wasn't expecting to say that.
It's just a very light, sugary, powdery, sugary kind of note.
So Sauternes wine is a dessert wine. It's meant to be sweet. And what I've noticed too from these Blood Oaths,
it's got a very bright.
is that John Rampy is mixing an old and then a couple of young ones. So he takes an older something, bourbon that's been a little bit oaky, maybe a little spicy, and then he blends it in with what I would refer to
the
as
younger, still 7 or 8 years old, so
it's not young stuff that he's blending in.
We should probably taste it.
Yeah, let's do that. Let's do that. Good call.
Cheers. Cheers. Wow, that evolves.
It almost feels like a rye.
Yeah.
Like a straight rye, even though it's not a rye. It's definitely not a rye.
No.
Definitely not a rye.
It's not a rye. It's a high rye, but not a rye.
Light, smooth, almost creamy. Get some of the orchard fruits. Get kind of maybe like a Granny Smith apple. A little bit more tart.
This one, the nose is a little lighter, and the finish on it is a little lighter also. I think 6. I really loved 6 compared to 7. So trying to follow that one after this, it's a hard comparison. But this one, it's still really good. On its own, I would not be disappointed in owning that bottle.
Yeah, for sure.
It's tasty, not too hot. I'm getting a lot of that cotton candy on the palate also. It's just a real, like a subtle sweetness. The rum cask one almost seems like an artificial sweet now after tasting this one.
Yeah.
Not too complex, but really tasty.
Yeah, I was a bit surprised. Like, I'm not getting like a lot of this or a lot of that. It's a nice blend of flavors for a blended bourbon.
It's a really good rye, is what it tastes like. It's a little more less complex than the other two, but it's still very delicious. You know, I think that's just the issue with it. The other two were, you know, evolved and danced and played, whereas this one's just very straightforward, just great, you know, yummy rye.
Yeah.
Just a little bit of the finish, not too much. It's not overpowering.
I think I'm getting a little, it's like a little herbal perfumey. I think that might be from being the high rye.
Yeah.
In a good way.
I think
It's really tasty. It's hard to say too much about it.
I know.
But it's good.
I know, and it's like, have you guys ever had a whiskey where it tastes good, and rather than dissect it, you're good with it as it is, and it just feels like a lot's going on, but you can't really put your finger on a whole bunch of different things and say, yeah, it's a lot of this, it's a lot of that. This feels like a lot of everything, and it's almost like listening to an orchestra that's at the crescendo. There's all these different sounds, but you're not really trying to pick it apart. This, to me, would be the bartender's Blood Oath, because it's spicy, and I think it would be just something that they would really appreciate, like throwing into a cocktail. And I know that probably sounds like sacrilege because it's
despite the
something
price, but I think you're right. That is the one out of, if you're gonna mix the ones or any ones that we've tried, that is going to be the one that would stand up to a cocktail, probably the best.
So Pact number 8. This is a blend of 14-year high rye bourbon, 11 and 8-year high rye bourbons that have been finished in the Calvados cask. And for those of you watching, maybe you're not familiar with what a Calvados spirit is. It's an apple brandy, and I'll just tell you, most of those are very apple forward.
So, on the nose, you're getting apple right away.
Oh man, spiced apple pie.
Apple, cinnamon.
I'm getting a lot of like
Cheerios.
apple skin.
Some pear.
Red apple skin. Fresh red apple skin.
Oh man, very ripe pear. Not just apple. At least for me, it's not just apple. Although I do definitely get like that green apple, that Granny Smiths, some Granny Smiths.
A little more heat than the last two. This one's closer to the rum on the nose with the alcohol.
Yeah, less buttery and creamy. This one's more punchy.
Yeah, a
little more sparkly.
A little spicy on the nose.
Yeah, more bright.
I feel it like in the top of my nose.
And the last 3, even though they're all a year apart, they were all opened a week and a half ago at the same time. So
Nice.
It's not like I have one that's been open 3 years, 2 years, and a year, and because that'll affect it quite a bit also.
Oh yeah. Yep.
Baking spices.
Yeah, a lot of
leather,
spice. A lot of spice.
And I get the return of the pepper that we got on pack number 5. Here we go, guys. Let's dive in on that taste.
Cheers.
Cheers, my friends.
Ooh.
Oh. Okay.
The first thing that comes to mind is that was weird, but in a good way. Like after the other one, this one, the barrel influence definitely gave it a different profile.
And it feels oaky.
Very oaky. Yep. This one definitely the barrel influence is coming through a lot more.
Yeah, dusty oak. It's more dry on the taste.
Yeah, drying my palate afterwards. Yep.
A little bit of cinnamon on the tongue, especially on the aftertaste, but still not as hot as the 5 was.
No.
On the nose, it had a little bit of that heat, but on the palate, it's actually pretty balanced. And
yeah, the 5 drank the hottest.
Right. Yeah, I would agree. It drank the hottest for sure. A lot more pepper, but this is dry, leathery,
Very
oaky.
leathery. Yep.
And mind you, that there's a blend of 14 and 11 year on this, so I think that's probably why it feels more oaky, or a little bit more of that wood influence.
It does feel like I ate a fireball or something. Your whole mouth and a little bit of your throat stay, not an alcohol burn, but just cinnamon.
You drink Fireball?
The candy.
Oh, no.
Fireball candy.
Yeah,
is
the
a
little
By the
round-
case?
by the case.
But I'm so far a fan of the Pact, the Blood Oath. I feel like these are very different and special. Very different across 5 through 8. I've never had any of these before, so this is all like a fresh experience for me. So I really appreciate you like having us try these and sharing them with us. So that's a good sign of a good friend right there.
Absolutely.
This shows me that it's also worth it to, continue buying the series. Like never had 5. I have the 6, 7, and 8. All of them are different. All of them are really good. I bring different stuff to the table, and at the retail price, I happily buy all 4.
Yeah, absolutely. I've enjoyed every single one of these. I certainly have a favorite.
Yeah.
You guys tried them, but what are your favorites?
Seriously.
But I would absolutely buy any one of these at retail. I would also continue trying. I haven't had any, but if I see any at retail going forward, I will certainly buy them because he seems to do a very good job of finishing and blending these bourbons.
I'm going to ask you guys just at a scale of 0 to 5, if you were to rate these, what would you rate these? Starting with you, John.
I'd give them all a good 4.5. They're all extremely good. At MSRP, I'd buy them all day long. The only reason they're not 5 stars is because they're not available. If they were available, they'd be 5 stars.
All right. So how about you, Nick? What are you ranking these?
Easily 4s. I think one of them might be a 4.5. I go 4, 4.5, 4. My verdict.
This one being the 4.5.
Yes.
Yeah.
My verdict on the whole tasting and all of them as a whole is that I'm gonna look for 9 that I believe should be out or
It is.
soon.
It is.
I
haven't seen it.
I usually know, and I haven't seen or heard yet. But I'll
So apparently Nick's got
an
the
eye
scoop.
out.
He's got the inside scoop on when these come out. Because you have a backup for some of these, right?
Not no more.
Okay. Not anymore.
They had backups.
He drank them all. So there you go. As far as my opinion on this, rank wise, I'm going to say that this one is my favorite. It definitely scored higher. And to your point, because they're just so hard to find, it does, for me, knock it down just a peg. But I try to be objective just on flavor and taste alone. But I also factor in things like price. It's good to have a great whiskey, but I don't think great whiskey needs to be expensive. Honestly, like I've tasted great whiskey that is actually very affordable.
Fireball.
Like Fireball, especially Fireball, by the case. So I would give this one a 4. This one's going to get a 4.25, and then the rest of these are going to get a 4. And the reason for that is I felt like this one just had the most amount of complexity, stood out the most by far, and it's hard to stand out in a room full of giants. Like, these are just really good. And I think you can find these for about, what, $125? Or in higher,
Possibly
right?
$125 to $150.
If you're lucky enough, right?
Secondary,
Yeah.
I don't know if we want to get into $250 to $500 a bottle. I wouldn't do that. But
Yeah, certainly not worth that.
if
They're
you
worth.
have to add it to your collection,
No.
I guess that's your choice.
What would be the most that you would pay for any one of these, even your favorite?
If I sold this for $200, I would pay $200 for the 6.
Okay.
Every other one of them, $150 is going to be my max for them.
What would be the most you pay?
I agree. If I can't get them at retail, I probably won't get them.
Gotcha. Well, folks, hopefully you enjoyed this whiskey review as much as we enjoyed the whiskey. I doubt it. But just because it's so good, right? If you're new to the channel, consider subscribing. Hopefully you did enjoy, us sharing this with you guys. It gives you a little bit of insight. If you find this bottle and you're curious about whether it's even worth the cheddar, I am definitely a fan. Like I said, I highly recommend it. It gets my stamp of approval. I don't know that I'm going to pay anything over $200, just like these fellas said, and I'm enjoying it. So the fact that I got to taste not 1, but 4, I feel pretty good right now.
Oh, yeah.
And it's not just a proof talking. So yeah, if you are a return sipper, thank you so much for continuing to support the channel. This one's for you, especially if you are a Patreon, which my friends here are Patreons. Hopefully you become one too. It really does help us grow. We're already diving into podcasts. So if you are a Patreon, you're already getting access to the podcasts. We're looking to venture out and do different things, and hopefully we get your support. Here at Whiskey One, it's about the one you enjoy. Cheers.
Cheers.
Shut up and sit down.
I'm sorry.
As long as you ain't touching my leg, that's
And
good.
these are only 49.3.
I know. Right, yeah. Yeah, for sure. What about you, John?
Nick. But that's
Sorry, hold on. Oh my God.
Which Blood Oath makes the best
Right.
bourbon and Coke?
The best. Which one tastes better on ice?
Yeah, oh, there you go.
White ice.
I need to get. Oh, that's horrible.
White ice.
It's almost all here.